Hey you guys, what is up? I am finally back. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. It's been a while. How are you? Me, I'm not doing too well. This morning I had an anxiety attack because I didn't go and visit my grandpa and I thought that everything went wrong and stuff. If you don't already know, my grandpa has been in the hospital for about 5 or 6 weeks now. A couple months ago, he fell and broke his hip a second time. He was in the hospital for about 4 weeks in the Misericordia in Edmonton, Alberta. And about 5 or 6 weeks ago, he went to the University of Alberta Hospital, and he had a deflated lung, and he had pneumonia. And if you don't know, pneumonia is a disease in your lungs, and it kind of deteriorates your lungs a little bit. Every time you get it, you get kind of a mark on your lungs, and it just never goes away. And the more times you get pneumonia, the better chance you have getting it again. So kind of on that subject, I want to talk about something that happened to my grandpa and happens everywhere, and I don't think it's talked about enough. So, welcome to the story time of me saving my grandpa's life. My mom had a appointment at the doctor's at the University of Alberta ENT clinic for ear, nose, and throat because she doesn't have sinuses up here. She just has them here, and they're like always clogged, and yeah. Anyways, so her appointment was at 8:15 on April 22nd, and we went to the hospital, and I went to go and get a Starbucks coffee because I am a Starbucks addict. I went to the elevators and I rode up to the 5th floor because that's the floor he's on. And I walked in and they were feeding him actual food through his mouth. Now, let me give you a backstory because that kind of doesn't sound too serious. I mean, you're just getting food through your mouth. What's the big deal, right? But because my grandpa has had pneumonia so many times and he has had Parkinson's all his life, and for about 25 years he tricked everyone into thinking that he didn't have Parkinson's. He would have tips and tricks on how to cover up his shakes, and if you didn't know, Parkinson's causes your hands, causes your body to shake, and it's a horrible disease. And if you want to, you can look it up. But as the person with Parkinson's gets older, the Parkinson's obviously gets worse. And my grandpa kind of did not take care of it at all because he's the type of person to think, if I don't talk about it, if I don't acknowledge it, then it's not really there. So he tricked everyone into thinking that he didn't have Parkinson's for 25 years, and he never did anything about it. With him breaking his hip twice and getting pneumonia numerous amounts of times, the Parkinson's just got progressively worse fast. And if you didn't know, Parkinson's can affect your throat. And so basically my grandpa is at a point where he actually can't swallow through his mouth because he doesn't feel it. And then it goes into his lungs, it goes into the wrong tube, and it goes into his chest, which causes pneumonia. And so he doesn't actually feel water or juice or food or anything through his mouth. So he strictly cannot have anything through his mouth, or he will have pneumonia and aspirate. And if you aspirate enough times, the pneumonia just spreads all over your lungs and you will die. And so my grandpa has a very terrible case, and he's currently getting fed through a stomach tube and can strictly not have anything through his mouth. So back to the story. My grandpa was getting fed through his mouth. He had toast, which is crunchy, and you all know what toast is. And he had water. It was not thickened water. It was just plain water that you and I drink every day. And he cannot have that stuff because he doesn't feel it through his throat. So I went into the room and I was like, what are you doing? Like, he can't have food through his mouth. Isn't he on a stomach tube? But I already knew he had a stomach tube in. I knew he was not allowed to have food. And this nurse looked at me and said, I don't know. A nurse working at a hospital looked at the patient's granddaughter and said, I don't know. And I was just like, what? What? Like, I'm still speechless. I still don't know what to say, quite honestly. And so I walked out into the main entrance kind of place, and I found an RN, a respiratory nurse or something like that. Basically, they're higher. Like, they're higher on the nurse chain or whatever. I don't know how to explain it, but basically, this nurse was like, well, he's not on my case, so I think that's his main doctor over there, or main nurse over there. So I walk over, and I'm like, excuse me. And the nurse ignored me the first time. And I was like, excuse me, like, hello. And I was trying to be as nice as I can, but I was very mad because my grandpa just had food through his mouth, which he strictly cannot have food through his mouth. And the nurse finally looks up at me and says, hi, what do you need? And I was like, yeah, my grandpa can't have food through his mouth, and you guys are feeding him right now. And she was like, really? Let me check. And she was flipping through the book. And outside of his room, you have to basically have a gown on. If you're sick, you have to have a mask on, and you have to have gloves on, because he got pneumonia so many times that he got this new kind of infection called VRE. And basically VRE is caused by when you have so many antibiotics into your body that your body just can't take anymore. And basically you need like a higher antibiotic or something. Like, I still don't even completely understand VRE, but from what I know, it's caused by having way too many antibiotics and your body just gets kind of immune to them. It basically fights off basic antibiotics, so you need stronger ones. And so that's what my grandpa has. And not only does he have VRE, he has a stomach tube. On the outside of his wall, next to all of these safety precaution things, there is a sign that says NPO, which is basically no food. Like, you can't have food through your mouth. Like, you're on a feeding tube. And so, on his board in his room, like where you're supposed to have the patient's name, the date, what they have, like all of that shit, they did not write that. They did not have it on at any point of the time when he was in the room. And legally, we are not allowed to write any of that stuff. Like, we aren't allowed to write his name or what he has. Only doctors and nurses are allowed to do that legally. So we couldn't even write anything on there. But on his chart, it says that he has a stomach tube in, that he's not allowed food through his mouth, he'll aspirate, all of this stuff. And this floating nurse, that it's called, fed him through his mouth. Like, what? There's a sign outside of his room that says, don't feed him through his mouth. It's in his chart. Like, how did this even happen? And there was a sheet next to the food, and it was for the patient a lady, I can't remember her name, but it was for the lady next door. Like, that next door room was supposed to have this food, not my grandpa. And somehow it landed in my grandpa's room. And I don't, like, blame my grandpa for any of this because the nurses, since day one, the nurses never listened to my grandpa. If he said something, they would just ignore him. Like, if it was either me, my mom, my auntie, my uncle, my grandpa's home care workers saying something to the nurses, they would listen. But if it was my grandpa who said something like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, okay, so there's this thing called a bedpan, and basically if you can't go to the bathroom on your, like, you can't get up and go to the bathroom, you have this bedpan. Everyone knows what a bedpan is. They left my grandpa on a bedpan for 3 hours. 3 hours. Like, what? 3 hours on a bedpan. Like, that's torture. What are you doing to your patients? Like, what? I'm getting completely off topic with other stuff that's happened to him. But, like, the amount of stuff that's happened to him in the last 6 weeks is ridiculous. And I basically walked in and saved my grandpa's life. Like, I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but if my grandpa had food in his mouth and it went down into his lungs, like, he could die. He would aspirate and get pneumonia and die. He's had it about 5 or 6 times. We're still surprised he's alive right now. Like, this man is amazing. He has fought through 2 hip breaks, pneumonia like 5 or 6 times. Like, the list just goes on, and we're just surprised he's even alive. But, like, I just wanted to bring attention to the fact that a nurse almost killed my grandpa. Like, it wasn't even, like, natural causes or anything. It was literally a nurse from a hospital that's supposed to be one of the world's best, or Canada's best, or whatever. Like, this hospital is supposed to be a great hospital. Yet, they fed my grandpa through his mouth when they weren't supposed to. The doctors were flat out, oh, he's not gonna live, within the first week of him being at the hospital. And 6 weeks later, he's still here. He is still kicking it. They won't let him get up into a chair. They wouldn't. But basically, every week we had to have we had to have a talk with the nurses saying, like, what the heck. Like, I know you guys have other patients and stuff, but this guy's not asking for a lot. He's just asking to get up and go to the bathroom. And the nurses were not letting him. And the doctor, like my grandpa's doctor, literally said the best thing for him would be to get up as much as he can, go to the chair, get up, do his exercises, all of that. And the nurses, when we asked them, they said no. Like, the doctor said yes, and the nurses are saying no. Like, there is no communication throughout, like, the ward or whatever it's called, like, the wing. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, the U of A is supposed to be one of, like, a world-class hospital, one of the best. And within 6 weeks of my grandpa being there, they have told my grandpa that he could get out, and 6 weeks later, he's still in. They told him about 3 or 4 times, right? And, like, I'm so mad. I don't even know, like, what to say. Like, I understand that you have a lot of patients, but if a patient has a stomach tube, don't feed him through his mouth because he could die. Like, I know nurses aren't trying to kill my grandpa, but it really fucking seemed like it that day. Like, she just looked like she did not have a care in the world. Like, if you don't like your job, why are you being a nurse? Why are you trying to help people? If you don't like your job, like, don't do it anymore, quit, go find another profession, do what you love. Like, I am blown away by what I've seen in the past 6 weeks. Like, and I just wanted to bring attention to this because it scares me, it scares my whole family that if this is happening to my grandpa while we're not there, like, what's happening to other patients that don't get visitors? Like, what happens to John down the road, like 2 doors down? What's happening to him when he doesn't have patient or visitors 24/7? Like, my grandpa's lucky that he has visitors all the time and he has care workers. And not only that, it seems like the nurses aren't paying complete attention to my grandpa just because we have home workers. Like, my grandpa is lucky enough to be able to afford home workers. Not many people are. He worked his whole life and finally he's spending it on home workers to help him do daily stuff, which is ridiculous, but that is just what life is. But I'm just scared because what is happening to Jackie down in room 204 or something? Like, I don't know, I'm just making up names and rooms, but like, I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. Like, I've seen videos before of like in nursing homes or old people homes. I'm very sorry, I don't know what they're called right now. I'm just really mad and ranting. But like, of how like these nurses or these workers like treat patients so badly, and there's like video cameras catching them. Like, have you guys seen those type of videos on like Twitter or something? Like, I know I have, and I was like, wow, that is stupid. But to actually have it happen to my own grandpa, it's just another level. Like, I want to do something about it, but I don't know what to do. Like, we've talked to the head person of the like whole wing or whatever. Like, it would like help things for a week, and then as the week goes by, it like slowly went down. Like, they would be looking after my grandpa really well, being attentive, and then that would be Monday, and then by Sunday it would be like, okay, like, where are you guys? Like, be attentive again. Like, my grandpa literally wants to eat or something like that. Like, I don't know, it's just so frustrating. Like, the fact that he could have died that day if it wasn't for me walking in. Like, what else are they doing to patients? Other patients that don't have visitors as constant as my grandpa. I just can't believe it. Like, I'm still shocked. I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Anyways, I'm gonna go because I'm triggered. And I'll see you guys later. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.